If you ever wanted to learn English or any other language, but sometimes it just seems impossible, don't go anywhere, because today I'm going to tell you how I learned English and how I know you also can. Hi there, my name is Felipe and welcome to Route to Fluency. Every week you'll find here new tips on how to improve or learn a new language and everything you need to know about studying and working abroad. So if this is your first time here, consider subscribing and hit the bell notification so you don't miss anything. A lot of people ask me how I learned English and how long did it take for me to learn English to this point, So I decided to make this video to tell you exactly how I learned English and also give you some tips about it. First of all, I'd like to say that I'm not a genius and I didn't learn, the language because I have any kind of special gift. I wish I were. I wish I had a special gift, but I just don't have it. So as you're gonna see in this video, I learned English just like probably you, just studying and trying to get the best out of the opportunities I had. Also, I'd like to clarify that I didn't grow up with parents that could speak a lot of languages. Actually, my parents can only speak one language, and I didn't attend any kind of bilingual school. And I'm saying that because some people, sometimes they judge who, had this opportunity because they think it was easier. And it probably was kind of easier if you compare to yourself in terms of opportunity, because they kind of have their own challenges, They didn't face your challenge per se, but they had to, to grow up probably confusing more than one language, and sometimes it might be a barrier. With that out of the way, how did I learn English? Well, I think I probably learned English just like you're learning a language, or like you learned English, or are learning English. For example, I'm Brazilian, so I started learning English at school. I was about 12 years old, I think. So, my first contact with English was actually in school, because I was studying there, and it's not a very good English to give you like communicative skills, but it certainly gave me some, basic level, because English at schools are grammar focused. So unless you attend a bilingual school, you're not gonna have that focus on, the communication per se. So if you don't have this communication, it's very hard for you to learn how to express yourself in a language. You're just gonna learn, the grammar and how to structure phrases, but it won't help much when communicating. And I don't think the schools are to blame, because every country has some kind of institution which is responsible to take care of the quality of education. So they actually do some requirements, and it's actually based on grammar. So the schools will follow these requirements, and the students have to study grammar instead of focusing on more important things for their future, which is communicating, right? Therefore, as I wanted to learn English, I also enrolled in a language school, an English language school, and I started taking classes there, but I actually changed this school, I think maybe twice or 3 times, and the last one I attended was pretty good. However, I got to admit that when I was a teenager, I wasn't responsible enough. So it was probably my fault and not of the language schools that I didn't, was following through with the language. I think, at the time I blamed the methodology, but now looking back, I don't think it was their fault at all. Just was me, not studying and not pushing hard enough to learn the language. Well, that made me remember about a coach lecture that he gave us once, because, I used to play soccer, and once we were losing some games, and he decided to give us a lecture because we were blaming other things, other than ourselves. Because, we were blaming the ref, we were blaming the weather conditions, we were blaming everything else. The methodology we were using to practice, and he actually told us that everything of these would actually give us like 40% of everything else we needed to do. So actually to obtain our goal, we were the sole responsible for that. We were like 6% responsible to achieve that goal. And I think that does apply for soccer and also for language learning, because when you're learning a language, you can, blame everything else, but, it's up to you to actually study, to actually adapt the language to your lifestyle and to actually go for it, to actually live it. Because if you don't live the language, it's gonna be very hard to learn it, and it's gonna take a longer time. And if it takes a longer time, you actually will be willing to give up, because we are humans and we like to see results fast. That's how we learn, right? So it's actually good for you to focus on you and what you need to learn a language and everything else. So as I was saying, I changed actually language schools twice or 3 times, and the last one I was at was very good, and I actually liked it, but not that much. Like it wasn't the school fault, it was my fault, as I said before, and I actually failed 1 level. And instead of going through all the levels and finishing and graduating there, I actually dropped off before. I reached a pretty good level, but it wasn't until the end, I didn't go through until the last level. So the point being here is like I wasn't responsible enough, and I didn't knew by then. I was a teenager, I think, so I didn't know the importance of English in my life, and I didn't want to, have fun with it. I didn't think I could actually have fun and enjoy myself while learning a language. And I think that was a big problem for me. Now I would like to hear a little bit from you, okay? Go down here in the comments and tell us, what do you think you can do better to actually learn English or any other language? Okay, so despite all of that of the language schools and the fact that I didn't graduate there, my English was not like the best, but I could communicate at least. I could, make some simple points. I ask for information. I could not actually have some complex dialogues, but I could actually express myself and understand others in a good way. So it was very good for me, but I wasn't happy with that, I wanted more of my language skills. I wanted to improve my English, because I knew back then was starting to understand that English would be very important for me. And I was, back in 2010, I was attending a very good university here in Brazil, and I decided to drop from that university and go to the United States to pursue an undergraduate degree there. And the reason I went to the United States was actually because, I felt already my English was like intermediate, maybe intermediate advanced back then. And if I went there, I wouldn't need to study traditional study to learn the language. I would actually live it, and would be way easier than, being in your country and actually having to study in the traditional way. That's why I did it, and I think was very good for me. The first thing that I actually noticed when I got in the United States is that I actually was speaking. Who could know, I could actually communicate, but I was, living the language. I was all the time I was listening. I was, actually speaking to other people. And I back in my country, I had the chance. I can't say I didn't have the chance, but I wouldn't look for it, back in my country. I could actually use some apps. I could have used, some other means to got what I wanted, but I didn't. I just was, maybe too lazy or something like this. But when I was in the United States, I had everything around me, so I didn't have to go looking for it. It was already found me in some way. So it was very good for me. I actually was watching movies in English, and I didn't have the habit to do this. And I was actually, listening to songs, singing songs in English, and I wasn't used to all of this. So what happened is that, my English started improving very fast until a level that, I was feeling very confident because I could communicate, everyone could understand me. Of course, sometimes I had some minor mistakes, and of course, sometimes people would correct me, and that's a beauty of living there. I think not only living there, but communicating and speaking the language is very important especially when you have people that can help you to improve certain ways. For example, I had a lot of American friends at the soccer team, also at the university, that they would teach me how to actually speak a specific word or a specific phrase like an American, like a native would do it. So that actually helped me to improve my accent. I also know that a lot of us, when we are starting to learn a language, we want to have a good accent. And sometimes at the beginning it's very hard because we have so much going on that focus on the accent is very hard. And you don't need to actually focus on the accent, but with, at the long run, you want to focus on the accent, of course. You want to have a better, how can I say, feeling when you're talking to a native, to try to just sometimes, try to deceive him, like, oh, are you really from Brazil? That feeling when someone's asked you is very good because you work so hard to get to that point that when you reach it and when someone tell you that, it's gonna feel like a real accomplishment. Okay, so let's suppose you are, enrolled in a language course. Do you think you can learn a language course just by attending the classes? Let's see. Here in Brazil, an average not intensive class of, any language is probably around 2.5 hours during the week. So if we suppose a month has around 4 weeks, it's going to be 10 hours of class. And actually a month supposedly having 4 weeks, you're going to have 672 hours total. So it's actually, if you do like 10 hours per, all of these 672 hours, it's going to be equivalent to 1.5% of your whole month time. So do you think it's really enough to learn a language? Well, I certainly don't think it is. But what I want you to bear in your mind is that when you are studying a language, learning a language, I'm not talking only about the traditional way. You have to look for better ways for you to learn a language, to actually live it, to actually expose yourself to the culture, to the cuisine, everything you like, and everything you actually do on a daily basis to do on that language, to live it. And that way, your brain gonna start working itself to understand the expressions that have in your language. Sometimes we get all crazy, all berserk trying to understand certain expressions, and we say, oh, this doesn't have any sense. But actually, when you are living the language and living the culture, your brain gonna start associating that to what you're saying, what you're feeling, it's hard to explain, but you gonna associate everything, and you don't gonna have the need to actually look for expressions on your own culture, on your own language, to understand something you are learning in another language. And that's actually very interesting because I myself sometimes I have some trouble when I'm thinking Portuguese, and sometimes it comes a lot of words in different language to express myself because my head associated those terms with the specific situations, with the specific feelings that I'm having. And sometimes I have to, stop, even if I'm talking in my native language, to think, how do I say that? Because my brain associated to a certain word, might be English, Spanish, whatever. And you're gonna start feeling that. And when you start feeling that, it's because you're actually feeling and living the language. And here in Route Fluency, we want to create the best community ever related to language learning and traveling abroad. So that's why we want very engaged people who are, willing to share what they're feeling, on their difficulties, and really help each other to improve those barriers. So if you're interested, please just keep watching our videos, and we're gonna have a lot of other tips for you. Okay, enough talking. So in a nutshell, I think the way I learned English was actually putting a lot of effort and, trying to find the best way for me to adapt that language to what I needed. So I think you can do the same, and you have to, actually have that moment of self-reflection where you need to think what you're doing wrong, and if you can approach learning a language by another way. So thank you so much for sticking around this far, and I really hope my experience learning English motivates you and keep pushing forward on learning the language you really want to. And if you like this video, give us a thumbs up and click on the button here to subscribe to Route Fluency and receive our weekly content. If you also would like to know more about us, you can go down below here in the description and click on the button to visit our website. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye bye!